Wade, your host again. You can make me a co-host so I can TA you for this class.
All right, great.
Thank you.
All right, there you go. Hey, Marcus. Good
Hey,
afternoon.
how are you?
Doing great. How about you?
Okay, your name is Wade, right?
It is.
Okay, and who is that in your arms?
That is my precious little dog, Elsa.
Okay, okay,
Let me turn my camera on too, but I'll give everybody a look at my dog.
okay, great.
Okay. Hey, Georgiana, you there? There you are. Good to see you again. And can you hear us? There's some more people. So Yud, if you're there, just unmute and say hi, so I know your phone's microphone's working.
Hi there.
Oh, okay, there you are.
Hi, Wade.
Welcome. Oh, hey, Georgianne, got your mic working? Okay, Marlene? Can you hear us? Oh, looks like Marlene doesn't have a microphone right now.
You can always listen to this if you want to.
Well, we're waiting for some other people to come in. Just kind of check in where people are from. Marcus, where are you calling in from?
Upper Marlboro, Maryland, which is right outside of DC,
Okay.
Washington, DC.
All right, good. Georgianne?
Wisconsin, Waukesha, Wisconsin.
Okay, all right, great. You, where are you calling in from?
Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Ah, okay. Welcome. And I'm in Southport, North Carolina, so got a pretty good representation around. We should have a few more people signing. It's a fairly small group, but 2 or 3 people more should be coming in. I'm going to go ahead and get started setting up the environment here, getting my housekeeping things out of the way so we're ready to start on time. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen first. So you should be able to see my screen. Okay. And I'm moving your pictures over to my other monitor over on the side here, so I can see you on my monitor. Like Trudy's coming in. Oh, hey, there's Marlene. How you doing, Marlene? Okay, looks like Marlene still having trouble with their iPhone.
Wade, at the end of this session, you'll be sending us notes. at the session?
There'll be some notes, and there'll be, you can get a copy of the whole recording and watch the whole recording and see all the slides and things again if you want to do that as well.
Okay, great.
A couple of ways to get information. Hey, Kevin, can you reach out, maybe see if you can help Marlene? Look like she's having trouble getting her microphone to work on her iPhone.
Sure, let me get it checked.
All right. Marlene, if you can hear me, Kevin's going to reach out to you in the chat, see if he can help you. If not, you can just use the chat to ask your questions, and that will be fine as well. But we'll try and get you hooked up if we can. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. This is iPhone Basics, our first iPhone class. I do want to welcome everybody to the class. Hope you enjoy it. My name is Wade Yarbrough, and I'll be the guide for the class today. A little bit about me. I'm from Mason, Tennessee. It's a small town in West Tennessee, just outside of Memphis. I got my PhD in psychology at West Virginia University, and have taught psychology off and on at several different colleges, but spent most of my career installing and training users on hospital information systems. I had a minor in computer science, and I've always had a passion for technology as well. And what I love about teaching at Get Set Up is that I'm teaching people that are here because you want to learn the topic, not because your employer made you come to the class, which certainly makes it more fun for me. And what we try to do at Get Set Up is to create an environment where you can learn things you want to learn with other people that are interested in that same topic, where you can interact with each other and also interact with the guide. It's not at all uncommon for someone to ask a question in a class, and I may not know the answer, but someone else in class does, and they'll give the answer. So that way I keep learning as well. So if you do know the answer to a question from somewhere else that I don't know the answer to, please let us know that as well. The session is being recorded, and any participant can request a copy of that recording. Just email help@getsetup.io. Be sure to include the class name and the date you attended. I'm going to put that in the chat as well, in case you don't have that email, that in your email already. Go ahead and record that contact. We're also live streaming the class today. And so I do want to welcome anyone that's joining us via live stream. Thanks for joining, and hope you enjoy the class as well. But I do want to stress that the only way to get that full Get Set Up experience is to go to our website and book a class. And finally, Get Set Up is not paid to promote any of the products or vendors we train on. We are purely trainers. So let's talk about what we're going to cover today. By the end of the class, you should know how to find your phone's model and operating system version, understand several different ways to silence your phone's ringer, know how to navigate to and use various screens on your phone, a couple of which you may not even know exists. And we'll spend a lot of time talking about apps, widgets, and the app library. These are all things that came out with iOS 14, which are all great enhancements. So let's start with finding out about your phone. And let me bring out my phone. Is there anyone who can't see my phone over here because pictures are in the way or anything else?
It's good.
All right.
It's good.
Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down to settings. I'm going to scoot this over just a little bit more so I can get the phone a little closer to center of the screen. There you go. Yours may not be down in this bottom right, but it should be somewhere on your home screen. So go ahead and let's click into settings. And then we're going to go into general. And I'm going to call out, in fact, I'm going to go all the way back out again and just call out something. You notice this little red one here? That tells me that there's a notification in my settings somewhere. We're actually going to find it, but that's what that one means. And when I go in, it actually tells me where that one is, and that's where we're going anyway, general. So go ahead and touch general. First place we're going to go is about. So we're to touch about. First line here is your phone's name. It comes with a name when you already. I think it's just called iPhone. But if you want to give it a more personal name, like I gave mine Wade's iPhone, you can just touch that line and it'll open up a window where you can edit the name of your phone. More importantly, it tells you what software version you're on. And is anyone below 14? 13 dot something, 12 dot something? Okay, great. because a lot of the things I'm going to show you are only available with version 14 and higher. It'll also show you
Okay.
what
I'm
phone.
13.
You're 13? Okay.
Mhm.
There'll be a few things I'll show you that you won't be able to use, but you can kind of preview upcoming things.
Okay.
It'll also tell you the model of your phone.
Mhm.
For example, mine is an iPhone 8. So make note of that as well, because there's some things that act differently depending on what model phone you have, and I'll call that out in the class. And for most things, 8 is the break point. 8 and older act one way, new with an 8 acts another way. So we'll talk about that. Carol, what model is your phone?
I have a iPhone 6s Plus, so I have a real oldie.
Okay, well, it should be able to upgrade though, because iPhone 6s is supported with iOS, so I think you can upgrade, and we'll show you how to do that in the class. Don't do it in the class, because
Oh, okay.
it'll probably take a long time, and it's going to restart your phone several times in the process. So,
Okay.
but after class, if you're on a 6s, I think you can upgrade, and we'll be able to see that in just a minute.
Okay.
Also, there's a model number here, and well as a serial number, which you might need that sometime if you're talking to Apple support. They may ask you not only what model name you have, but what model number or what your serial number is. That's where you can find all that information. So let's touch the general, go back out one level and go down to software update and go in there. So if you have an update that you have not installed yet, it's going to look like mine. That's what that little red one is. It's telling me I've got an update I need to install. And I actually didn't install that one, so you can see what it looks like if you do have one to install. Carol, does yours say you have an update?
Yes, it does.
All right, good. So you will be able to do the things you're going to see in class. So what you may want to do is upgrade it after class. And then if you want to get a copy of the recording to watch it again if you need to, most of it you'll probably remember.
So in other words, I probably need to do this upgrade tonight after classes, because I have classes like up until 7:30.
Yeah, it's best to do it overnight, especially if you're going at the to the left, the whole number level. If you're going from 13 to 14, that's a long install. If you're going to adopt something, that one is less of an install.
Okay, no, I think mine's is 13 dot something. It is 13 dot
so
something.
I would plug it in the night before you go to bed and click that install and let it run overnight.
Oh, okay. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Now, if you're up to date, then it'll just say no updates found or you are current, something like that here.
Okay.
All right. Questions from anyone else? All right. Very good. Let's move on. So I'm going to, and I just put this in here to show what it's going to look like if you don't have one. Now, I've already downloaded it, so mine says install now. Initially, it'll say download and install. I went ahead and did the download. I didn't do the install, but you would do the same thing. You would click here and start the process. All right, so let's talk about a couple of features, actually one feature about the physical phone. And because I'm assuming you know about most of the buttons and dials and things, but there's one right here on the left top. It's called the ringer on-off button. It's really not a button. It's a little switch that you can flip up and down. And that turns the ringer on and off. So that will turn off the ringer. So if you're coming into a meeting or a class like this, so you don't get a call going into church service, whatever. It also will stop the little ding you get when you get a text message. So it turns off both the ringer and the notifications. I think there's a better way to turn it off, and I'm going to show you what that is. But I wanted to point this out, one, in case you want to use it, but also occasionally, and it's happened to me, this will get flipped somehow in your pocket or in your purse, and all of a sudden you're getting calls, but you're not getting a ring when the person calls. That's the first thing to check to see if that little switch has gotten flipped accidentally. 99% of the time, that's why your phone's not ringing when you get calls. One other thing I'll mention while we're here, a little tip and trick, is that if your phone does start ringing and then you're in a place you don't want it to ring, hit either volume button, up or down, and it'll stop ringing immediately. that person calling you will still hear the rings, and then it'll go to voicemail so they can leave you a message, but it stops the ringing. So you don't have everybody turning around and staring at you because your phone's going off at church. Let me show you how I control ringers, and it's using something called Do Not Disturb. That is a setting. So I'm going to go back to the home screen, and let's go back in again. So we're going to touch settings. And I'm going to scroll up to the top so we're all at the same place. So if you're at the very top, just come down to the second group of settings, and it's right here, Do Not Disturb, this little purple background with the quarter moon. Touch that. And this is where you can turn on Do Not Disturb. And you can see I forgot to turn it on before class myself, so I'm going to turn it on right now. If it's green, that means it's turned on, which means calls won't come in. So turning it on is that simple, and I'll show you an even easier way to do it in a few minutes, but that will turn it on. What I like about Do Not Disturb is that you can control it to some extent. With the switch, it's either on or off. Like for one thing, what you can do is you can schedule it. So I have mine scheduled to turn on at 10 o'clock at night and then turn back off at 7 o'clock in the morning. That way I don't get phone calls from telemarketers in the middle of the night waking me up.
I don't have that do not disturb.
What model is yours? You should have Do Not Disturb.
I don't have it, but I know
So-
why I don't.
It's the iPhone XR.
XR. I thought the XR had it. It may not. It may not be until the 8 that it has come out. So you don't have that Do Not Disturb down here.
Nope.
Okay, that is a model, not the operating system, I think. So again, you can just kind of watch and see how this works, and as a coming feature when you upgrade. So that way you can schedule it. So every night it just comes on automatically. Let's say I'm expecting a call that night, and so I want to be able to get that call. I can just come in and turn it off. So for that night, it's turned off. And then the next night I can turn it back on and put it back on the automatic schedule. So you can turn that on and off if you want to. There's lots of other things in here. We're not going to cover everything. The next thing I do want to cover is repeated calls. And if you turn that on, what happens is that if somebody calls you and then calls back again within 3 minutes, the second call will come through. I mean, usually if somebody calls and then they turn right around and call you right back, they think it's an emergency. It may not be a true emergency, but they think it is. So that will let that call come through. And you could also use that to tell family and friends that, hey, sometimes I use Do Not Disturb. But if you really need to get to me, if it's a true emergency, if it goes to voicemail, leave a message, but then turn around and call me right back. And if I have Do Not Disturb on, it'll let you through the second time. Okay. Questions about that one? And again, that does control the ringer and the little ding for messages. It doesn't affect your alarms and things. So if you've got your alarm set to wake you up at 5 o'clock in the morning, the alarm will still go off. It's just phone calls and notifications. All right, let's move on. Just gonna slide this over out of the way. So let's go back to the main screen and kind of start going over the basics of the phone. I'm gonna cover the parts of the home screen first. And the first part, ignore this thing that says Let's View. That's a tool that I use so you can see my phone. So my phone actually starts where the blue-green color starts. And this first line here is called the status bar. And that tells you the status of things, aptly named. How your cell phone coverage, who your carrier is and how much coverage you've got. So right now I've got a pretty weak signal. The more bars, the stronger the signal, but mine works fine in this room. So whether your Wi-Fi is turned on or off. So if you see the Wi-Fi, you know it's turned on. It's got the time, if your eyes are good enough to see that. And it has some little icons. This little icon, remember the quarter moon for Do Not Disturb? This tells me that Do Not Disturb is turned on. So that's another reason I like this versus the switch. I can just glance here and see if I turned it on or not. And other things have icons as well. This means I have an alarm set. And then you got your battery percentage remaining. So that's the status bar. This
I'm
is-
sorry. I told you that I didn't have the do not disturb, but I do, but it's in a different location than
Oh,
where you
interesting.
were at. So
Okay.
I
That's
just
good to know.
found it.
All right, good. Thanks for telling me that, because I'll remember that in case somebody else can't find it, that it's on a different place. All right, great. Okay. Okay, so this is the home screen, and it's actually home screens, plural, because there are several, as I'm sure you found out by now. These little, and that's where all of your apps live. We're going to talk a lot more about apps a little later in the class. These little dots down here tell you which home screen you're on. And with 14, you can have multiple screens, and it flexes. It adds screens as you need them. It drops screens if you don't need them. But right now I've got 5 screens, and the little dot tells me which one I'm on. So when I move over to the next screen, you can see that it's now brighter. It's maybe a little hard to see on the, but that tells you where you are. You move from screen to screen, I'm sure you know, just by putting your finger on and swiping. But you can also tap down here on this bar and move. And for some people, that's easier because sometimes when you're swiping, if you swipe too hard, you're going to launch an app instead of swiping. So if you want to just touch this bar, that's another way to move back and forth. This bottom section is called the dock. And this is where you dock some apps so they don't move. So those are there no matter what home screen I'm on. So these should be the 4 most important ones, the ones you use the most. And you can change what's in there. By default, it has your phone. It has the Siri browser. I've got Chrome browser instead. Messaging app, and I think that's all that's on there by default. It'll hold 4. So I'll show you later how you can change which apps are in your dock. Similarly, you would want to have the most commonly used ones on the first page of your home screen. So I'll show you how to do that as well. Okay, let's talk about 2 other screens. And again, if you have questions, please just unmute and ask as I'm going through. If you have questions or if I cover something too quickly. We're going to look at the notification center. And to get there, you just put your finger in the upper right of the screen and swipe down. Watch my screen while I do it, and you can try it on yours. But just put your finger up there and then pull down. So you leave your finger on the screen until it's pulled all the way down. And that's the notification center. Some of these pull down motions are a little tricky. You may have to practice it a couple of times to get it to work. But this shows you all the notifications you've gotten. You've probably seen something like this pop up on your screen and then it disappears. This is where it goes to when it disappears. So you can always check to see what notifications have come to your phone that you may have missed. This is especially useful if maybe you haven't had your phone in your hand for a while and you may have missed something. You can come here and check to see what notifications have come in. After you checked and you don't need to do anything, like this is just telling me there was a radar, that there's some storms popping up. I don't need to go dig any deeper into that 2 hours ago. If you touch this X, it'll change to the word clear. Touch the word clear and it wipes them out. Except for this one, this is do not disturb again. So here again, do not disturb is telling me it's turned on. Why I like do not disturb, because with the switch, it doesn't keep reminding you it's turned on. With do not disturb, every time I come to this screen, it'll remind me do not disturb is turned on. So if I forgot to turn it off after class, I'll notice it when I glance up here. I'll also notice it when I go to my notification center. When you're finished,
Hey,
you can just
wait, hey, wait. When I swipe from the right corner down, my
left corner.
left, okay.
Yep, we're going to come back to the right corner. You're one step ahead of me,
Okay.
but yep, try the left
Sorry.
corner. No, it's fine. Yep. So you're on something newer than an 8. I don't know what model, but I know you're on a newer than an 8.
I have an 11.
Yep. Okay. So it should, regardless of what model, the notification is the upper left.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. Now the control center is the next place we want to go. This one, it depends on your phone. So if you've got an 8 or older, like I do, you're going to swipe up from the bottom. If you've got something newer, you're going to swipe down from the top right. So if you want to watch my screen, I'm going to pull it from the bottom. And first, I'm going to throw that notification center off. I forgot to tell you that. So just put your finger on it and slide it off to get rid of it. You can touch the home button as well. And now I'm going to swipe up from the bottom. And there's the control center. I love the control center. I'm in here multiple times every day. And it's basically shortcuts to settings and tools that you normally use, and you'd have to go somewhere on your phone to find them. It puts them all right here in the one place. So for example, if you need to turn on airplane mode, if you're traveling again, you can just swipe up, touch the plane right there, and it turns on airplane mode. You can change the brightness of the screen just by sliding right there. Does this look familiar? This is do not disturb. I can turn on do not disturb right there. So, oops, it did that one other time. I'm not sure what's going on with that. Hang on one second. I've got to get my phone to come back. Hopefully I can do it quickly. Okay, it's wanting to be on. Give me just a second. Okay, I'm gonna have to go all the way out. It'll just take me one more second. Now, come on. And there it is. All right, sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened. Slide this back over, move this back over. All right, we're back in shape. So let me slide this back up to get back to the notification center. So again, you can turn do not disturb on from here and turn it back off from here. So I just turned it on. And if you saw it, but right there it said do not disturb is turned on. I also know it's turned on because it's up here in my notification center. Down here are different, I call them tools that you can have. Yours won't look like mine probably. I've got a flashlight, my calculator, stopwatch, magnifying glass, an audio recorder, my camera, notepad, and Apple Wallet. So if I want to use any of these, so used to be if I needed my calculator, I was doing this thing where I was flipping around trying to find my calculator. Now I just swipe up and touch the calculator, and there it is. Much quicker and easier for me. When I'm done, just touch the home and it goes away. You can determine which tools show up down here. And if you're looking at yours, you're probably seeing different ones than the ones on mine. Let me show you how to do that. We're going to go back into settings. And we're going to scroll down just a little bit to control center, right here below general where we first started. And you can see, here's all the ones that are on mine. It has a little red circle beside it. If I touch that, it will take it out of my list. I can touch there and then I hit remove. And that drops it to the lower section, which has all the different things I could put up there. So you can see it did not go away. Here's wallet. It just moved to the bottom section. If I want to move it back, I'll just touch the green circle. It's now back up at the top again. So that's how you can control which of these tools you want to have on your control center. We don't have time to go over all of these, and there's some that I don't know what they are either, but what I'm going to do is after class, you'll get an email And in that email, there'll be a link to an article that goes over all of these in terms of what they do. So you can figure out which ones you want to put into your control center. Questions? All righty. Good. We've got plenty of time for the most important topic, which is apps, widgets in the app library. So these are the apps, and you probably don't have as many as I do, but you probably have apps on your screen. And I mentioned you can move them around. Just a number of reasons you want to move them around. One may to put them all, if you have several that do the same thing, you may want to put them all together. And you also may want to put all the ones you use the most on the home screen. Let me show you how to move them around. And for those of you on 14, you just touch and hold anywhere down here where there's not an app for about a second, and they'll start jiggling. Now, if you don't have 14, what you do is you have to touch and hold an app. And so I'm going to watch my screen. I'm going to show you how it works. And you can do this if you're above 14 as well. It's a little harder, but just touch and hold. And it's going to pop up that menu, but just keep holding, and then you get the same effect. You've got them jiggling, and you'll have, I forget if it's a plus or an X. I think it's a plus here or an X here maybe instead of the minus. And I'm going to show you how to move them around, then I'll check in and see if anybody's having trouble getting them to jiggle. But if you just watch my screen, let me show how it works. If I want to take this one out of the top row and move it down to the bottom row, you just put your finger on it, hold it, and drag it. Drop it where you want it. If I want to move it to the next screen, I can just slide it over, bump it off the edge, and drop it on a new screen. Want to put it back, I can just grab it again, push it over the edge, and it'll drop back on the other page. That's a little tricky too. Sometimes you have to play with that to get it to work, especially getting it to move from one screen to the next. If your finger's too close to the edge of it, it won't go through sometimes. So you may have to touch it at a different place. Try to put your finger right in the center. I mentioned you can change what's in the dock. So if I want to put files down there instead of settings, I can just touch this one and drag it out and go grab files and drag it down and drop it in there. So that's how you can get the 4 that you want to use and use the most often down there. I'm going to put settings back because that's one I use a lot teaching classes. There's one other thing you can do. You can create folders. So for instance, OneDrive and Google Drive and Apple Files are all cloud-based file management systems. So maybe I don't want to put them all together in a folder. So what I can do is I'll take one of them and go and put it right on top of another one and drop it. And that creates a folder that has those 2 in there. So there's my folder. Now I'm going to take this one and drag it down and drop it in that folder. So now I've got a folder with 3 of them in there. I can change the name of it here. Instead of productivity, I can call it cloud drives. Whatever. So now the name has changed. It's now called cloud drives. If you don't want to have that folder, and sometimes this happens by accident, if you're trying to move an app, sometimes you'll end up dropping it on top of another one and accidentally creating a folder. If that happened, I didn't really want that folder, just drag them out. So I'm going to take this one, drag it out, drop it back on open the folder again, drag the next one out, drop it, open the folder a 3rd time, grab the last one, drag it out. When you drag the last one out, the folder goes away automatically. Questions about moving apps and creating folders? Okay, so that's apps. Let's talk about widgets. Widgets were enabled in 14. So if you don't have 14, you can't do widgets. Again, so you can watch and get a preview of things coming. So this is a widget. This is my favorite widget. But what this is the Weather Channel widget. You can see at the bottom what widget it is. It's tied to the Weather Channel app. To get the widget, you've got to have the app. So if you don't have the Weather Channel app, you can go to the App Store and get it, but you have to have the Weather Channel app to get the widget. Every app doesn't have a widget. They should. And a lot of them are adding widgets, but right now, since this has only been around for about 6 months, these other companies are having to write the software to create these widgets. So everybody hasn't done one yet. So if your favorite app doesn't have a widget, you can check back a month or so later and maybe it'll be there. But what a widget does is it takes information from inside the app that I would normally have to open the app to get to, like current temperature, current conditions, forecast for the next 3 hours, forecast for the next 3 days, what the radar looks like. Lots of information that I didn't have to touch anything to get to. I just flipped to that screen and there it is, current and updated. Without the widget, I'd have to touch the Weather Channel app, open the app, and it always opens really slow. And so there's my current conditions. Then I'd have to click here to get the hourly conditions, and then click here to get the daily forecast, and then click down here to get the radar. So much more tedious process than just seeing it on the way by. Everybody kind of getting what widgets are and why they're handy things to have. Questions? Other than how do I get one? I'll show you that in just a minute. I'll show you a couple more. Here's a stock market widget if you're follow the stock market. So if I want to know what's going on with the 3 main indices or with any of the stocks that I have, I can configure this. You can determine which ones it shows up, and can see what's going on with just a glance as you're going by the screen. Again, normally I'd have to open the app and go in and look at this information. Same thing if I'm worried about what's the latest top story, that will show up here. It changes every half hour to an hour. Whenever something new happens, that changes. So you can just glance and see what the latest top story is. And with all the widgets, if you touch it, it's like opening the app. So I can go in if I want to see the rest of the news, not just that one story. It opens to that story, but you can click backwards and go through all the news stories. So it's another way to get in without using the app itself. Questions? Okay. So let me show you how to get an app or widget. So we're going to go back, and again, you have to have 14 to do this, but hold your finger down again and have it jiggle again like we did before. And then if you look at the top of the apps, or at the top if you've got a widget there, you'll see a plus sign. Depending on what model you have, it may be on the right, it may be on the left. I don't know why they move it around, but it'll be in that top area. Touch that plus. And that brings up the search widget screen. And you can scroll through to see all the different widgets that are available. This is Yahoo Mail widget. Photos, here's Google Calendar. There's that stock one that I had already. There's the NBC News. We were looking at, you can get your maps. So all the different widgets available to you are down here. And again, what's available to you depends on which apps that you have. Let me pick one. I'm going to pick, how about the Yahoo Mail? So I'm going to touch this. And you'll notice there's some little dots down below it. What you have to do next is pick what size you want. And typically it's what I call small, medium, and large. So this is the small one. This is the medium one. This is a large one. This is like the one I had with the Weather Channel. So since I didn't have a small one, I'm going to pick the small one to show you what that looks like. And now I just touch Add Widget. And there it is. I can touch again to stop it jiggling. And that gives me an eye into my Yahoo Mail. I've got 2 unread messages, and you can kind of see what that has. It's kind of hard to read it as well. But that's the small, that's a large, that's a medium. That's my own terminology. But now maybe when I look at this one, it says that doesn't really tell me enough to be of any value. I want to get rid of it. I'm just going to touch it for a second until the little menu pops up. And then I can remove the widget. It gives me a confirmation. Do you really want to remove it? And it lets you know removing the widget will not delete the app. It will not delete your data. So you're not getting anything. You're not getting rid of anything except that widget. So it's now removed. And I'm back where I was. Questions so far? I've got more to show you, but. Okay. If not, let me show you. What you've hopefully noticed that these things are very handy to have. What you've also probably noticed is they take up a lot of space. I mean, these things are big, and so it takes up a lot of space. Apple has come up with a way to deal with that. If you look at my screen, you can say I'm on the Apple Top Stories. I'm going to put my finger on there and just flick down, and now it goes to NBC Stories. So what you can do is what they call stacking. You can stack several widgets right on top of each other. Let me show you how that works. Let me go back into the widgets again. So I'm gonna touch the plus again. I'm gonna grab the same one we had. And now when you're stacking, they have to be the same size. So I'm gonna put this in that stack I already had. So it's gotta be the same size. Those were mediums. So I'm just going to say add. And this is like creating a folder. So here the other 2 are. Here's the new one. I just grab it, slide it down on top of the other ones, drop it. And now I've got 3 widgets in that space. Think about it like cards. You got cards stacked on top of each other. And I just put my finger there and flip through to get to the one that I want to see. I mean, typically, you'd probably want to put ones that make sense on top of each other. You know, that's why I've got 2 that have news together. And so maybe as I'm thinking about that, I think this one doesn't really make sense to be in with those 2. I want to do something else with it. I can touch for a second until the edit menu pops up. And I can get rid of the whole stack if I want to get rid of all 3 of them, but I don't want to get rid of all 3 of them. I just want to take this one out, leave the other 2 that were there. You can hit edit stack. And it shows you what's in there. What I'm going to do is just touch Yahoo Mail and slide it to the left, opening up that delete. Hit delete. It's now gone from the stack. And now I'm back with what I had.
Could you show how you got edit stack?
Yes. You just touch it for about a second. Just touch it really briefly.
Oh, okay.
And it'll pop up. Again, some of these touches are a little tricky. You have to practice them. If you hold it too long, that one is pretty good. Some of them you have to just flick it very slightly. I think you can just actually push and hold until it pops up on that one, and then not release until you see the list here. Okay, right. And I didn't mean to do that. That's one where I held it too long and it opened it. Okay, so that's widgets. And again, in the email that's coming out after class, I've got a link to an article that talks a lot more about widgets if you aren't quite clear with the widgets. Because I do want to go to the app library before we leave. And yeah, I mentioned these little dots down here tell you which of your home screens you're on. This one tells me I'm on the last home screen, but there's actually another screen after this one to the right of this one. So I'm going to swipe over once more, and that's the app library. So it's off to the right of that rightmost dot. And every app that you've installed on your phone is in the app library. They're in folders, just like I showed you how you could create your own folders. Apple does this for you. It creates the folders. It automatically puts the apps into the folders. And you can kind of scroll through and see. At this point, you can't decide what the folders are. Apple creates the folders and decide what goes in the folders. My guess is that on a future release, it'll let you do that yourself. But for now, you have to kind of learn the folders that they've created and what goes in the folders. But that's one way. There's 3 different ways to get to your app. So that's one. Just go to the right folder. If it's got a big icon, like all 4 of these and 3 of these, you can just touch it to launch that app. So if I can just touch the F there for Facebook, and it launches Facebook. If I want to go to Messenger, which is that icon down there, I touch that box of 4. It opens up the whole folder, like it did when I showed you the folders over on the home page that you make yourself. Now I can touch any of these. So if I wanted Messenger, I can touch Messenger, and it launches Messenger. When I'm done here, I can just touch anywhere on that screen other than on top of an app, and it collapses just like the other folders did. So it works like the folders you create. Apple just creates those. That's the first way. Now the second way is if you just touch anywhere up here in this app library search window and watch my screen, it switches to an alphabetical list, and it also has an alphabet over here. So if I'm looking for WhatsApp and I didn't know what folder it was in, I want to find it this way, I can touch the W over here on the side. And there it is right there. So I can touch WhatsApp and launch it. So again, depending on how you like to deal with things, this one might be easier. One nice thing about this one as well is that if you're like me, there's sometimes I know what the icon looks like, but I don't know what the name of the app is. So you can quickly just scroll through, just like you were scrolling through the pages in your home screen. You can scroll down this way and look at them and find the one you're looking for. So that's another nice thing about this one. You can just scroll through by name. You can scroll through by icon, or you can touch the alphabet to jump to that letter. The third way, which is probably not a surprise, you can actually search. So if I'm looking for WhatsApp again, I can just type WH. 2 letters is usually all you need to enter. So it shows me all the apps that have a W and an H. That's why Weather Channel is here. It's got a W and an H. It starts with the ones that have them together. So to me, that's what I typically do. I search instead of scrolling through. Now, my favorite trick, I'm going to go back to the home screen, my primary home screen, the one all the way to the left. And I'll show you. I don't have to go over there to the app library to search from this screen. If I'm looking for WhatsApp, and it happens to be on the screen, but we'll use it as an example anyway. I will put my finger on the screen and swipe down, just pull down a little bit. And as you're pulling down, you can see it opens up something called Siri suggestions. These are apps that you've used frequently and often. So more often than not, what you're looking for is in here. But if it's not, and WhatsApp isn't in there, I can just type from here, WH. There it is right there. So I can get to pretty much any app on my phone without ever leaving this screen. If I don't see it on the screen, I just pull down and search and get it that way. So what that also means then is that I don't really need to have all those apps on my home screen. And if you noticed, I have tons and tons of apps. Very few of them are on my home screens. And the reasons most of these are on there is because I teach classes on those and I want to show people what it looks like. But if I wanted to take this off my home screen, for example, mindfulness, I can touch that until the menu opens up and I can say remove the app. And don't be afraid, you're not deleting it. It's going to give you that option. So it says, what do you want to do? Delete the app or just remove it from the home screen? So I'm going to say remove it from the home screen. It's now gone from my home screen, but it's still there. If I do this and do MI, it's right there. I can still get to it. I can still run it. I just don't have to have that icon on my home screen. And to kind of complete the circle, that means I can get rid of all of these apps and have more space for my widgets. So that's kind of the trade-off. You can have more widgets, fewer apps, because I don't need those apps on my home screen anyway. Does that make sense? Questions? We got a minute or two for just general questions. If there's anything that I covered here too quickly, or we'll even open it up for any questions about the iPhone.
Wade, I had placed mine in the chat. I'm just wondering, can you save text, like, or can you find them later? How do you handle that in terms of message when you want to save a text?
Oh, a text message?
Yes.
Can
you save them?
So if there's like one, just like one up here that you want to save?
Yes.
Not the whole conversation.
Right.
You can, well, this will save it. If it's a picture, this will save it to your photos on your phone.
Right.
Now, if it's a text message that you want to save, I don't know of a way to do that. If you can do it, I haven't seen that one.
I know how to use the other features like the copy, but I wondered if I wanted to save something, like to next week, and go back to it. How do you do that?
Yeah, if you can do it, I don't know. And I was kind of fumbling around to see if I could stumble across it. And apply, copy, speak more. And the more just takes me to delete. That's the only more thing. So I don't see it.
Okay.
Yeah, not to say it's not there, but I don't know where it is. And fumbling around, I can't find it unless somebody else knows how to do that. Okay. All right. Well, we're just about out of time here anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the closing because I do want to get you out in time for your next class. So that's the end of the class itself, and I do want to thank you for attending and hope you learn some things about your iPhone and hope you're enjoying your experiences. And if you are, and certainly if you're a social media person, that you're sharing your experiences on social media. And if you do, please tag us at GetSetUp or hashtag GetSetUp. So we'll see your post and we'll be sure to like it as well. If you want to share your experience, but you don't do social media, you can email it to Liz at getsetup.io and she'll post it on one of our sites. There's a couple of follow-on classes to this class. There's one called iPhone Personal Safety Features. As the name suggests, this goes over a number of different features that have to do with your personal physical safety. And then there's an iPhone Tips and Tricks, which just goes over a number of assorted tips and tricks, other things you can do with your phone. Not necessarily things you do every day, but things that are fun and handy. All right, let me go to closing slides. So after class, you'll get an email And it has several sections. The first section is the class notes. That's I kind of mentioned this one already. In that class notes section, there will be links to websites. One of those is the one that lists all of those different tools that I mentioned that you may want to put in your control center. And there's a couple other links in there to other information. Oh, there's a link to an article talking more about iOS 14 widgets and app library to get more information about that one as well. If you want to recommend the class to a friend, a couple of ways to do that. You can post it on Facebook by clicking here, or you can email a link by clicking here. There's also links to 3 other classes you might want to take. If you want to take any or all of those, just click on the link. It'll take you to the registration page, save you having to navigate through the website. There's a give feedback link. If you click that, it'll open the feedback form where you can give feedback. Only 2 questions. How do you want to rate the class? 1 to 5 stars. How do you want to rate the guide? 1 to 5 stars. There's a place for comments for both one of those. It's explaining why you gave us that rating. Comments aren't required, but they are certainly appreciated. And we hope that you're enjoying being part of the Get Set Up community. And if you want to get more involved, there's other things you can do. You can host an interest group. We're looking to start an interest group around iPhones, where you can get together with other people that have an iPhone and share tips and tricks and ideas and help each other troubleshoot things they can't get to work. If there's a class you'd like to see us offer, or maybe you know an organization that you think would be a good partner for us to work with, you can just send us an email and let us know about any or all of those. And that's the same email you use to request that session recording we talked about at the top of the class. And the last thing in the email is that view schedule link. If you click that, it takes you to our website where you can book another class. Several changes that we made fairly recently I want to run through in case you haven't found them. First, right in the center of your screen here is View My Complete Schedule. This is a shortcut to the classes that you've registered for. If I click that, it'll take me to My Schedule. You can also get there by clicking Schedule and then My Schedule, so it saves you a couple of clicks. And these are all of the classes that you've signed up for. At class time, you can launch from here instead of having to keep up with the emails if that's easier for you. If something comes up and you need to cancel a class, you can do it easily from here. That frees up that spot for someone else. I mentioned that sessions were being live streamed. That's what this is, TV down on the bottom. So Get Set Up TV is, if I click there, it'll take me to the class that's being live streamed, and TV down at the bottom. So Get Set Up TV, and it is my class, which always freaks me out to hear myself. So it's running at about a 3-second delay from real time. But what that is, it's like television. You can click here and watch a class that's currently in session. The guide can't see you. You can't talk to the guide. It's like TV. But if you got 20 minutes, 30 minutes, you want to just turn on the TV and see what class is going, you can do that. Or you can go to the schedule again. And okay. And I thought it would show me that which one's live right now, but it doesn't. But anyway, that's a way to do the live streaming. A good way to preview a class, or just to drop in if you got some time to watch and see what's going on. If you're looking for a class, the best way to find it is to just click up in this search window and put in a keyword. So if you're looking for other iPhone classes, just type iPhone. Here's the one that we just took. Here's the iPhone tips and trick class I talked about. And here's the iPhone personal safety features. So if you're interested in either one of those classes, you can just click it and it'll take you to that class where you can register. Something else we've added fairly recently is that if there's a guide or guides that you like to follow and take their classes, you can now just put their name and hit enter. And it will show you all the classes that they're going to be teaching for the next couple of weeks. It's in chronological order, starting with the next class, or starting with the current class in this case, and showing the other classes that they're teaching. So if you want to register for any of those classes, you can just go and click on the class name or click on the book. It takes you to the same place. takes you to that website. So if you want to book the class, you can book from here. Click that and show you one last thing, and then we're going to be done, and I'm going to be right on target. We just added this a few days ago, but when you book as part of booking, you can put it on your calendar. That's been there for a while, but we've added invite a friend. So if there's someone you want to invite to the class that you're going to be taking, not the one you just finished, but one you're signing up for, maybe you want to go at the same time so you can talk about it after class and see each other in the class. Just click invite a friend, and you can put in their email and click send to send them an email with an invitation link, or you can copy the link and then just do it through your own email, whichever way you would rather do. Okay, so that is the end of the class, and we are right on schedule to get you out of here. I do want to thank you for attending. Hope you enjoyed the class, and hope I see you again in another class really soon. Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Yep, bye-bye. Have a great afternoon.